So today we got the next to last episode of Loki. Let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Let me know, what did you think about the next to last episode of Loki? And as this is a spoiler review, you have been warned, and feel free to spoil away down below in the comments section. The way these work is I give my general thoughts right at front, and then I kind of talk about the specifics of the episode. With that said, let's get started. And in general, I felt this was a fun, but a bit underwhelming next to last episode. What I mean by that is that I enjoyed the individual sequences. There's of course a lot of fun to the novelty of having all these Loki variants and see how they interact with each other, see how they try to manipulate each other, swindle each other, the hierarchy that they form. Of course, all of that is fun. There's a lot of nice little character moments all throughout it. I mean, that's very much what this episode was about, was having these little moments to pause and just let the characters interact a little bit before the finale. And there's some important reveals inside of it. A ton of nice Easter eggs in the background if you're watching what was going on with the stuff dropping and falling out and everything like that. But at the same time, on kind of a plot level, you get to the end of the last week's episode and you're like, whoa, we had like 4 major twist reveal things that just happened. And who are the timekeepers? Like, you really want to know. And then we pause for an episode to have shenanigans with a bunch of Loki variants and put a little bit of information in there, but not a whole lot. And so it just feels like kind of your forward momentum of excitement to figure out what's going on just gets put on hold for a little bit. And that's just kind of feels underwhelming. And like I said, when you only have 6 episodes, every moment matters, every second counts, and you want to feel something big each and every episode when there's only 6 of them. Like, at this point in time in the series, it feels like the big payoff is discovering who's the man behind the curtain, who's the great and powerful Oz. That's really what we're waiting to figure out, exactly who that is. And so last week gave us this answer about the timekeepers, and so the big payoff we're waiting for now is, who are they, and is the TVA going to survive all of this? And it felt like this episode was just kind of delaying giving the answer to either one of those things. And there's, even some choices made by Sylvie in relation to Boss Lady. Like, there's things she could have done, enchanted her or other things to try and force things a little bit more, but instead she kind of gets swindled by someone, which seems unlikely that a Loki would fall so easily into a little trap like that. And so it's just, there's some things like that that just, I don't know, it didn't hit me the way some of the other ones did. It just kind of felt like, okay, that's nice moments. I wish it had a little bit more meat to it, progressed things a little bit more, brought us to where we're going. Very much in the same vein of my issues with episode 3. I'm pretty sure I like this one more than episode 3, but similar sort of vibe of there's this energy, this forward momentum on certain plot lines, and then these 2 episodes feel like side quests to delay getting to what we actually want. That's maybe a gooder way to say it, a better way to say it. All right, from there, let's do our walkthrough. So the episode kicks off, and it's kind of tracking both all of our Loki variants in the void, as well as Sylvie and the Boss Lady. So picks up with Sylvie and Boss Lady, and she keeps threatening her, I'm going to take you out and everything. And Boss Lady's like, no, he wasn't actually killed. He's sent off to this place called the Void. It's the end of time. We can't actually delete things. We can't actually erase things. We can just send them to the end where everything gets destroyed by all this stuff that's what we're actually doing. So you can actually save your buddy. And hey, I'm on your side. Like, I was betrayed too. I'm confused too. I want to figure out what's going on. And so then she ends up trying to help her out. In theory, help her out. And they're going to team up to try and figure out what on earth is going on with the time, who created the TVA, because it seems like no one actually has any answers. Then with our Loki variants in the void, they're on the run, and you quickly realize that the Lokis have their own hierarchy that they've created inside of this weird void space where their whole goal is to survive, just to not get eaten up by this thing called the Goliath that's like a cloud monster flying around, eating everything that's dropped there. And what's one of the fun things about this place where they're at, the void, is that stuff just keeps being dropped from time variations that got erased. And so then out of nowhere, little Easter eggs like a Thanos copter drops out of the sky and battleships. And this feels like one of these episodes that people are going to be able to like go back through and like look at everything. And there's going to be ties to everything. Like, I'm sure just jam packed with funny little bits and references to things. And even at one point in time where like they crawl through the into the Loki fort, and it kind of does this pan down shot, and you just see a Mjolnir just buried under the ground there. And just it's an interesting space because it's like the junkyard of time where things are just abandoned that weren't supposed to exist, according to whoever's behind the TVA and the timekeepers and everything like that. According to them, I punched my mic. According to them, all this stuff isn't supposed to exist, so it's the junk of time dumped at this space, and you just walk around, like any junkyard, find a whole bunch of interesting little things. So, but the big idea is they need to survive from the Goliath, which eats whatever's dropped there. It's the destroyer of things, as we understand at this point in time. Back at the TVA, they go see Miss Minutes, who's supposedly going to help them look up information on time, the end of time, to figure out what they need to do. And then Miss Minutes starts talking about their void car vehicle or something like that. They're like, wait, what? They've got a car that drives this. This sounds awfully weird and suspicious. Like, oh, I'll have it in just a moment. You can see Sylvie's very suspicious of whatever's going on. She quickly realizes that Boss Lady is just delaying everything, trying to swindle her a little bit, which case is like, as soon as you stop and think about it, like, why didn't she enchant her, go into her mind, unlock her mind? Like, if she wants this person to cooperate with her, why doesn't she unlock her mind doing the enchanting things so she sees old memories, so she can go in her brain, figure out what's going on in there? And she, I don't know why she wouldn't do that. Instead, she falls for kind of this little trick that you would think a Loki would be able to see through, these trick things. So real quick, she grabs her time pad deal, runs away as a bunch of TVA agents come in. And you start to realize that TVA agent lady, I have no idea what her actual agenda is. Like, what's she actually up to? Because it's like she's mad about discovering everything she believed was false, but she's not working with the people that are also mad about that. So what exactly is her angle? What is she up to? I feel like that's one of the questions, like, I kind of want answered. And like, what? She's clearly had a dark side to her throughout this. It's like she's not, she knows stuff we don't know, but clearly she also doesn't know a bunch of stuff. So how exactly that's going to work out, that's one that I'm kind of fascinated in how it's going to play out. But Sylvie, not wanting to be taken by them and knowing that she has this time pad, she decides to prune herself to send her away to the void to try and help her Loki buddy, to try and tear down the TVA and figure out everything that's going on. So then back in the void with all of our Lokis, you just have this fun little sequence where Loki Phase 1, who's new to this space, thinks he's the smartest, as he always does. And so he keeps being like, well, all we need to do, we got to get out of here. We got to do this. And they're like, dude, we all thought that. That's what every single one of us thought when we got here. What have you thought about this? Yeah, that was the first thing we thought. Like, it's just like it's fun little sequence of all these guys that are essentially the same, but different at the same time, bouncing ideas back and forth, and all of them shooting him down like, dude, you are so far behind where we're at. And it's almost interesting to see him as like the naive version. They're the cynical ones who have been here long enough that they just know there's no hope. But he thinks there is hope, so he's trying to figure out a way out of it. His plan, I'll kill the Goliath. I'll kill this thing and see what's on the other side to get out of it, to create the time variant by killing that thing. Therefore, the time stream continues. There's my plan. So he comes up with this plan, climbs up the ladder to get out of there, which I don't know, like, that's more of a goal than a plan, because it's not really a plan when you don't know how to do it or what you're going to do, but that's known as a goal. And so he climbs up the ladder, opens it up, and then there's all of these other Lokis, one of them that looks exactly like him, except as like a politician version of him or something like that. So there's all these Lokis up there. Turns out there's like roaming bands of different Lokis trying to be in charge, which is just kind of a fun little detail of all the Lokis working together, but not working together, trying to get the upper hand on each other. So we learned that boastful Loki betrayed this first group of Lokis to work with the other team of Lokis to gain control of the whole area and be the king of it. Just this kind of bizarre, weird scenario. Like they said that in the interviews, like, oh man, it gets weird. They weren't lying. It certainly did get weird, and then a fight breaks out. It kind of reminded me of the old 1960s Batman show with the Biffs and the Baps and like this cartoonish, campy fight sequence. It doesn't actually have Biffs and Baps on screen, but the music that was playing, the tone of the fight in general, was kind of campy. But then classic Loki, Kid Loki, and Gator Loki escape out the back door. So then back with Sylvie, she is in the void now, being chased by the Alioth. She's running off, and a car drives off up from the distance, and it is Mobius. So she jumps in the car with Mobius, and they drive off. This kind of raises a question in my mind of like, okay, so everyone we've seen in this space is either a Loki or Mobius. Now, a factor into that is that two of these Lokis and Mobius were just sent here. But the other side to it is that this space is at the end of time, so everything, I don't know how the time works there, if they're just sending it to the end of time, but there's also a progression of time in it, so they don't all arrive there at the same moment to be destroyed by the Goliath. But so some of them could have been there a long time at the end of time, which I'm not quite sure what that means. But everyone here in the void is a Loki or Mobius, which I don't know what's up with that those are the only people that can survive. Like, obviously we see a battleship drop at one point in time, and they start firing and they get killed, but what's the reason that Mobius is able to survive and the only other people we see surviving are Lokis? Is that a hint that he too is a Loki? And is that why Loki gets along with him so well, that there was a Loki at some point in time that decided to go to Earth to ride a jet ski and got in trouble for it and then became Mobius at the TVA? Is that where all of this is headed? I mean, he doesn't seem as conniving enough, doesn't make enough sense. But otherwise, why is he the only other person that survives? Like, what? So we're trying to understand the rules of the void and who's going on there, and do we just not get enough time there? But even with the amount of time where the percentage of people we saw that were Lokis was awfully high. Anyway, back to our car ride. Mobius and Sylvie kind of have this little pause moment where they reflect on everything they've done, where she's like, you were hunting me like a dog, and he's like, yeah, well, or Sylvie says to Mobius, like, you were hunting me like a dog. And he's like, yeah, you killed a lot of TVA agents knowing that they were variants. Like, we both did some really bad things because we thought it was for the greater good. And kind of that moment of reflection on, they have this higher purpose that they're working towards. But at the same time, they did bad stuff in the process, and they're realizing, oh, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. So just a nice little character moment. That's what this episode did nice, is to have little pauses to let different characters talk, bunch of Lokis talk to each other, kind of reflect on reality and everything like that. So they keep driving down the road, and she says, I need to go back. I want to confront the Cloud. And so Loki Phase 1, Sylvie, their default setting is, let's go back to the Cloud monster that destroys all reality. So then, since they're all heading back towards the Cloud, Sylvie, Mobius, and our Loki variants end up in the same spot, and they have a reunion, and they're excited to learn that they didn't die, they have made it, they've survived, and Sylvie reveals she wants to enchant the Alioth. Her theory on all of this is that it's like the guardian to what's beyond. There's something on the other side of the Alioth that's really what you want to see. That's where the real timekeepers are, where we're going to discover the actual Oz, the great and powerful. Who's behind the curtain? Who's behind the TVA? Who's the time dictator? Enchant the Alioth. That's how you figure. Don't kill Alioth. It won't help you out. Chant this guy, then you'll figure out what's on the other side. So I have this like nice little sequence where the Lokis sit around a fire and they kind of tell some stories. It's just interesting to kind of hear their different versions of what they did. And one killed Thor, and one classic Loki was afraid. When Infinity War went down, and he just hid for a long time, ran from the struggle, and was just alone and got lonely at one point in time. So throughout the episode, like I said, character moments, kind of fun, and just hearing alternate timelines, alternate versions of what happened. And once again, I can only imagine how much of all this references things, ties back to things in different comics here and there. So just like nice little touches like that that kind of expand this multiverse that they're setting up as we're watching all of this. But then we get another little moment between Phase 1 and Sylvie where they start talking about their feelings for each other, and their Nexus event moment where when they touched hands and thought they were about to die, something happened in that moment that was a big enough Nexus event that the TVA was able to find them. And clearly each of them have weird feelings for each other, because I don't even know what that means to be in love with yourself. And they're just, Phase 1 is like being vulnerable for the first time and really saying what he's feeling. Like, I've betrayed everyone that ever loved me, but I'm changed now. Like, I'm not that person anymore because of everything that's gone down. And he's like, even says in one point in time in the episode, like, I don't even know how long the Battle of New York was. Like, I don't remember when that was with all this stuff happening. But through this, he's been changed. And Sylvie and him are like making googly eyes at each other, being like, okay, well, when we get to the other side, let's figure this out together. Like, me and you, we can make this work. We can figure this out. Let's see what happens. Which once again, like, it's a weird plot line to whatever. I don't know what the end payoff is going to be for this one. So then we move into the final little sequence where Mobius decides he's going to go back to the TVA to burn the entire place down, that they're the time fascists, and that's what he wants to stop. So he's given time pad, goes through a portal to go burn that place to the ground. So we're going to see what's going to happen with him doing that in the next episode. Classic Loki and Kid Loki decide that they're not going to stick around. Like, they want to stay in the void. That's the world they know. That's the place where Kid Loki is king. So that's his glorious purpose, is to do that. So they're going to stay, but he gives a sword to Phase 1 Loki that he'll need for his quest. And then Sylvie and Phase 1 head off to battle the Goliath. And as they start approaching it, they're like, we gotta sneak behind it and stab it in the back. And as they're saying this, like, a gigantic battleship drops right next to them and just starts shooting every cannon that it has, or launcher that it has, at this thing. And it's totally unfazed and just swoops in and kills all of them. They start, okay, we're gonna need maybe a bigger distraction. I don't know what we're going to do to try and have the moment to enchant it. If that wasn't able to like slow it down enough, what are we going to be able to do? And then classic Loki shows up, sticks his hands in the air, and creates Asgard all around him. This whole mirage illusion of Asgard, which catches the attention of our Goliath, and it starts going after him. You have this moment where Phase 1 Loki like starts to realize, like, how's he doing this? Like, I guess we're a lot more powerful than we realize. Like, we can do a lot more than we thought we could. And so Goliath starts swooping in and trying to eat this fake Asgard and kind of going through it. And classic Loki, who he chose not to sacrifice himself to save Thor. Like, he's the guy that was the coward that like hid himself just as rocks and rubble and then lived on it himself. And he's become cynical, and now he's serving another Loki. He's like given up on everything. And then in his moments, he realizes that this can be his moment of glorious purpose where he can do something that matters, and ends up standing there, creating this illusion as long as he can so that our other two Lokis can enchant this thing. And like, as he's standing, like, screams that glorious purpose as his moment of doing something that matters as he's eaten. And it was for a character that we didn't spend a lot of time with. It's just kind of just enough backstory to make it like a nice little moment. Meanwhile, Sylvie and Phase 1, Sylvie says to him, like, hey, you're gonna hold your hand. We need to enchant this thing together. It's too big. He's like, I don't know how to do it. She's like, yes, you do. Like, we're the same. Like, you know how to do this. Like, we're the same. And so then they hold hands and put all their magic powers together. And in doing so, they're able to go into the mind of this cloud thing. And then you just see like this castle thing off in the background, very spacey looking. There's a tower glowing, but you see it, cut to credits, no mid or post credit scene. Episode ends. So some closing thoughts. As I mentioned at the beginning, like, I enjoyed the individual moments, but the questions I had at the end of the last episode, I essentially still have now. Of what's Boss Lady's agenda? Who's behind all of this? Will we ever get to see Mobius on a jet ski? That's the stuff I'm still wondering. And this episode just kind of like pushed that down the road a little bit. It's like, okay, let's have a couple obstacles, character moments, a bunch of nice novelty with Easter eggs and Lokis, references to stuff, alternate timeline stories about what happened. But I didn't feel like there was, like, what was the substantial nuggets? What was that big moments? And I didn't feel like there was too much of that in here. And that was kind of my frustration. But, in general, I'm thoroughly enjoying this show and the intrigue that it's raising, the questions about what's behind all of this and how is this going to end and what's it going to set up for the future. There's just a lot of nice little mysteries throughout all of it. And I hope it does a better job than WandaVision answering those questions. WandaVision was great at raising questions and making you go, I wonder, what's up with this, and theorize, and then the final answers are like, okay, that was a bit simplistic. And on this one, I don't think didn't raise as complex of things to where I think the fan base doesn't seem to be getting as wrapped up in our theories. It's a little bit more straightforward. So I think there is potential that this one will actually have a reveal, Kang, whoever it's going to be, that feels satisfying and feels like it gives us a hint at what's happening next with Phase 4. How does this tie into Spider-Man? How does it tie into Doctor Strange? I think this one will actually do a little bit more than that. So I'm very excited for next week. As much as I was underwhelmed by this week, it didn't diminish my enjoyment of the show as a whole. I just wish there was a little bit more meat to this week's episode. That's my take on it. Let me know what you thought down below in the comments section. Spoil away, as you are well aware. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week for the finale. Bye-bye.